21st century, Phillipsburg is one of Montana's premier tourist destinations. Centrally located in the western part of the state, it's a gateway to a wealth of outdoor activities for both summer and winter enthusiasts alike. But the 150-year-old origin story of this town is much different. It's a tale of men and women who headed west during the country's great expansion in search of something better, of people who sought the ore that the earth held and was unwilling to relinquish, and how they released it to strike it rich or fail in the attempt. The Royal Mine Stamp Mill reflects the 1800s, a time when men made their futures by the strength of their back and the sweat of their brow. It demonstrates the creativity, ingenuity, and tenacity of those who would make their way in the world at any cost. The Royal Mine Stamp Mill is their monument.
In the early days, post-Mountain Man era, we think like 1850s, 1860s, there was a considerable amount of travel through the valley. Not that there hadn't been before. And we believe that at that period of time, some mineralization was noted up in what was to become the Cordova lode. So, through some discussion, we think, they had decided that they send a guy by the name of Hector Horton up here to locate the lode and go to Silver Bow and file the claim. That's pretty much how it happened. Book 1, page 1 of location lodes, Granite County Courthouse. So 1865, Hector Horton came through, located the Cordova, and staked in a fellow by the name of Frank Graham. Now, Frank Graham was a pretty bright guy. Frank Graham was not only staked in here, but he was also staked into some of the early day claims in Butte at the time. So the Cordova lode was located. Some work was probably done on the ore, and through the result of all this, the St. Louis and Montana Company was formed to erect a mill, which we see over here, under the direction of Philip Deidesheimer. Well, the St. Louis and Montana Company had the mill shipped in from St. Louis, and the pans of settlers were shipped up from the Comstock, and one of the guys they brought up was a fellow engineer by the fellow name of Philip Deidesheimer, who had gained quite a bit of fame in the Comstock for his invention of the square set timber to hold the ground in the Comstock. Well, one of the real reasons that Deidesheimer was brought in to do this was he was probably not one of the foremost mining engineers of the era, but he was also one of the foremost metallurgists. And this ore was unique in similarity to the ore that they were finding in the Comstock, that they needed to use what is called the Washoe process for recovery. Well, the only people who were familiar with that process were the superintendents of the Comstock, of which Deidesheimer was one of them. So they brought him in because he understood the process. He supervised the erection of the mill and the construction thereof and was going to run it, and that is why they named Phillipsburg after Philip Deidesheimer, because he was a very competent engineer and probably a pretty outgoing personality besides. So one of the things we're going to discuss in the walking tour of Phillipsburg, which I'll be conducting, is not only this, Philip's contribution to Phillipsburg, but also how mining has played a role in the architectural development of the main street of Phillipsburg.